What's up everybody, my name's Justin. Today I want to talk about what is the best form of conditioning for ultimate Frisbee. So I put out this question on my Instagram story asking you guys your best guesses before I made this video, and I got a wide range of answers. And I think that's very common in the ultimate Frisbee community. Unfortunately, this question of what's the best conditioning is kind of controversial. Not a lot of people agree on if longer cardio is good, if short sprints are good. I don't think there are any bad forms of conditioning. I think it just comes down to what part of the year you're in and what specifically your goals are. There might be somebody that might benefit from one type of conditioning more than somebody else if you're in the off season or if you're in season, right? All of that's going to change. So I'm hoping with this video, I can provide a little bit more information about when each type of conditioning can be applicable and then how you can apply it to your own training. So let's get right into it. I'm not going to do that thing where I'm going to make you wait to the very end of the video to figure out the answer. My opinion on the best form of conditioning for ultimate Frisbee is playing ultimate Frisbee. And that seems like a cop-out answer, but hear me out. Nothing's gonna prepare us for ultimate Frisbee like playing ultimate. That feeling of getting down into a defensive stance, moving side to side very quickly, chasing your defender, catching an upline, decelerating and looking upfield. That's all stuff that we can really only get if we're playing high intensity pickup or games or tournaments, even mini. Some of the answers I was getting on my Instagram story were very, very detailed. They were saying things like short sprints with a lot of change of directions, lateral movement. That stuff just sounds like playing ultimate to me. So why not just play a game which is going to be a lot more fun, a lot more engaging, rather than trying to make a bunch of drills that are going to replicate the game? And obviously by playing the game, there are other aspects that I'm also improving. I'm improving my throwing, my game IQ, just knowing where on the field I want to be. And if I'm playing with my team, then I'm building chemistry with them. So rather than trying to separate them, conditioning and playing games, why not just play a little bit more ultimate so then I can improve multiple things at the same time while also getting my conditioning in. I think another very beneficial thing with playing ultimate Frisbee is that you're getting your mental side also stimulated. With a longer cardio workout, you can kind of just turn your brain off so then you can get through the pain. But you can't do that in ultimate, or else you're gonna have a bad throw, you're gonna make a bad cut, you're gonna be completely out of place. You've got to constantly stay mentally stimulated as well. So I think it's a great way to balance making sure we're getting the conditioning in while also keeping our mind stimulated. So that's number one. I think the best form of conditioning for ultimate Frisbee is playing ultimate Frisbee. Number two is along the same lines, playing other games. Things like pickup basketball, spike ball, soccer, volleyball. Those are gonna get us a lot of the same things. We're going to be reacting to a defender or to a ball. Overall, there's gonna be a lot more engaging and a lot more fun. Which would you rather do? Would you rather go out and go for a 1 hour run, or would you rather play an hour of pickup basketball or soccer? I know I'm picking basketball or soccer any day of the week. And along the same lines, they're going to keep our minds stimulated so we're not just turning into these zombies where we can turn our brain off to push through the pain. They're gonna get us stimulated and they're gonna make sure that our brains are being prepared at the same time as our minds are prepared. Lastly with that, we're still training a lot of aspects of our athleticism that are specific to ultimate Frisbee. Think about spike ball, for example, those quick lateral movements and those accelerations, decelerations. Well, that's highly specific to how a handler has to move and how a handler defender has to move. So we're getting conditioning that's very fun, very enjoyable, and it's also training specific aspects of ultimate Frisbee. But I think it'd be hard to disagree with the fact that ultimate Frisbee or playing games is going to be a great form of conditioning. But if you do disagree, please put your thoughts down in the comments. I would love to hear them. Now let's go into the more controversial topics. Let's start with longer aerobic cardio. Now when we're in the preseason or we're in season, we're practicing a lot. We've got games, tournaments, we're playing pickup, we're playing mini. We're getting a lot of our conditioning through that, as I was saying. But in the off season, we don't have as much of that. So supplementing with some of that longer cardio, like 20 to 30 minute runs, bike rides, things like that, are going to be necessary because we're not getting that through playing the game. And that's going to help us build or maintain that cardio base that we need. It's obviously a huge competitive advantage if you can play ultimate and not get gassed. Now, what's also crucial about that aerobic base is that it helps us recover very quickly between our high intensity efforts. As a cutter, I cut very quick, and if I don't get the disc, then I'm clearing back into the stack. I'm chilling for a bit in the stack, and then I'm cutting again. And if I want to make sure that my cuts are very fast and explosive, then I've got to make sure that when I'm chilling in the stack, I've got a good aerobic base so then I can get back to close to 100% very quickly, so then my next cut can also be very high quality. And this bleeds into our training as well. When we're closer to the season, we probably want to do stuff that's a little bit faster, a little bit more explosive, a little more powerful. But I don't want to have to take 5 to 10 minutes between sets of squats or sprints to make sure that I'm close to 100%. If I have that good aerobic base that I built in the off season, well then I can rest a normal amount of time and I can make sure that all of my efforts of high intensity work is going to be very high intensity. I don't want to be the guy that's gassed between sets of squats because I don't have a good cardio base. Now on the other side is the shorter duration, higher intensity anaerobic conditioning. These are things like your intervals or your shuttle runs. This is stuff that's great to add in as we're getting closer to the season or if we're actually in season, because we want to start to match the intensity of what we'll see in game. And then of course, if there's a time where you're not playing Ultimate, let's say maybe you have a week off, then maybe you want to do a little bit more anaerobic conditioning that week, so then you can replace the cardio benefit that you would have gotten from playing Ultimate. Now, a very important detail that I want to make clear before I go farther into anaerobic conditioning is we want to make sure that we are separating our sprint training and our conditioning. A lot of people do sprints as a form of conditioning, where they'll do a sprint, take a really short rest, and they'll sprint and they'll just continue to go, 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 go. And that's a great cardio workout. But what ends up happening with that is a lot of times we are sacrificing our speed. Think about sprinting, for example. What is sprinting? It's very much a nervous system movement, meaning our brain has to sync together our muscles, has to get our muscles to fire as quick as possible and as much as possible, so we can get the legs turning, we can get as much strength and power into the ground, so then we can propel ourselves forward and we can move as fast as possible. That's why if you look at the 40-yard dash, or if you look at the 100-meter dash, those guys aren't tired at all after the race, because it was strictly a nervous system thing. It was just their muscles working. So what that means is if we're trying to get faster, if we're trying to move fast, we've got to make sure that we are training fast as well. We've got to teach our body what fast feels like. When we do sprint intervals, what happens is the first couple we're able to go at 100%. That just makes sense. But over time, fatigue starts to kick in and it reduces our speed. If you're doing, 10 sprint repeats, you know that that last one, even though you're trying to go at 100%, you're giving 100% effort, you're maybe only going 60, 70% speed, what you're capable of, just because of fatigue, right? There's no way around it. But what we're doing here is we're teaching our body that 100% effort is 60 to 70% speed. We're teaching our body that we're trying to go fast, but we're really going slow. And remember, if you want to get faster, you've got to train fast. So stuff like this can sometimes become detrimental to our speed. So if you look at how great track athletes train, most of their training is very short distance sprints where they're going at 100% effort and they're taking a really long rest in between. So then they can preserve the quality of those sprints and they can continue to train fast. They're trying to teach their body what fast feels like so they can keep pushing the needle of how fast they can actually get. So that doesn't mean if you sprint when you're tired, you're gonna get slower, or else you'd get slower every single time you play Ultimate, because that's what happens. You're oftentimes tired, but you still have to sprint at 100% effort. But I think that's my point. You're gonna get a lot of that while playing Ultimate, so why do we need to make more workouts that are going to replicate that, right? That's why I say the best conditioning workout for Ultimate Frisbee is playing Ultimate Frisbee. Now, what we can think about anaerobic conditioning as is work capacity. We're not trying to push the needle on how fast we can get, what our 100% speed is. We're just trying to get our 80 and 90% speed more comfortable. We're trying to be able to repeat that many, many times and have the conditioning to keep going at 80 and 90% for the duration of a game. Because let's be honest, that's what we're usually at most of the time during a game. There's going to be a few times where you're at a true 100%, but most of the game you're living at that 80, 90%. You've got to make sure that you are conditioned enough to be able to sustain that over the course of a game, over the course of a tournament. So then to keep things really simple, we can just do your standard interval, where maybe we're starting off with 1 minute at 80 to 90% with a 1 minute rest between. And then of course, this can be running, but it could also be a lot of different forms of cardio. It could be a bike, it could be your Stairmaster, your Rowmaster. I don't think the mode of conditioning really matters as much as just the effort that you're giving. So you're going at 80 to 90% for a minute, you're resting a minute, and then you can repeat this as many times as you want. Maybe the first time you start off with 6 rounds, but then the next week you bump this up to 7, the next week you bump it up to 8, so on and so forth, and you're getting your body better at being able to complete work at 80 to 90%. Now, if going for a whole minute at 80 to 90% was too much, we can always drop it down a little bit more too and give yourself a little bit more rest. Maybe we start at just 30 seconds at 80 to 90% with that 1 minute rest between. So now we've got a ratio of 1 work to 2 rest. And then of course we can do the same thing where we can start with 6 rounds and then we can bump this up to 7 rounds the next week, 8 rounds the next week. And you don't always just have to increase the amount of rounds in order to progress the workout. You could then also just decrease the rest. So maybe instead of a minute, you drop it down to 30 seconds rest. That way it's 1-to-1. So you're still doing the same amount of work, right? 6 rounds of 30 seconds, but now you're just doing it with a little bit more rest in between. So your body has to be able to recover between each of those efforts a little bit quicker. And that's just the general idea. There's a lot of science that goes into different work to rest ratios and what energy systems you're training. And if you really wanted to dive deep into that, you could. But I think for 99% of people, just keep it simple. Just start with something like this, or maybe the 1 minute on, 1 minute off, and then find one variable that you can try to progress each time. Maybe it's adding another round. Maybe it's dropping your rest a little bit. Maybe it's making this work just a little bit longer. Find one thing that you can improve on each workout, and I guarantee you that you're going to see some great improvement long term. Great thing I've heard is if you improve 1% every single day, that's 365% in a year. But it starts with those small little improvements. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you had any questions about this, please feel free to put them down in the comments. But if you liked the video, please hit like and subscribe for more videos just like this.